Stop looking at the map of the Arctic. Stop listening to the diplomatic noise coming out of Brussels or Ottawa. Look directly at the number 100%. That is the tariff rate that was just placed on the table for Canada. This is not a negotiation tactic. This is a liquidation event for the global alliance structure. In the last 48 hours, the United States has effectively turned its closest military allies into economic hostages. The price of release is the island of Greenland. This is no longer about trade deficits or steel quotas. We are witnessing the weaponization of the American consumer market against the very nations that were supposed to be under the American security umbrella. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization is being dismantled, not by tanks on the Eastern Front, but by attacks on the Western Front. If you are holding automotive stocks or relying on a just-in-time supply chain that crosses the 49th parallel, you are already standing in the blast zone. The market has not priced in the collapse of the North American trade corridor. It is pricing in a bluff. I am telling you this is not a bluff. This is a foreclosure, but the number 100% is just the surface wound. The real hemorrhage is happening in the structural integrity of the Western Alliance, and the data I am about to show you regarding the European response proves that we have moved beyond a trade war into a kinetic diplomatic rupture. We must analyze the mechanics of this threat. The United States president has demanded the purchase of Greenland from Denmark, citing strategic resource control and Arctic dominance. When this demand was met with resistance, the response was not a diplomatic summit. It was a financial ultimatum. The threat of a 100% tariff on all Canadian goods and a 25% tariff on European goods is a scorched earth policy. You need to understand the physics of this. The North American automotive industry is a single organism. A piston or a transmission shaft crosses the US-Canada border up to 7 times before a car is finished. Applying a 100% tariff on Canada is not like taxing China. It is like trying to stop blood flow to your left arm while expecting your right arm to keep lifting weights. It is an act of economic suicide designed to inflict maximum pain on the partner. This threatens to vaporize the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement overnight. The auto industry, energy sector, and agriculture networks are staring at a complete freeze. This is why Mark Carney, the former central banker and now Prime Minister of Canada, warned Davos that we are in a rupture, not a transition. He knows the ledger. He knows that if this tariff hits, the recession in North America will not be mild. It will be a depression. However, the Canadian collapse is simply the trigger mechanism. The true explosion is happening across the Atlantic, where the definition of an ally is being rewritten in real time. Europe has been given a choice: sell sovereign territory or face an economic blockade. The threat of a 25% tariff on 8 European nations, including the United Kingdom, France, and Germany, changes the fundamental calculus of Nato. We are seeing a shift from the United States acting as the guarantor of global security to the United States acting as a predator of global resources. The response from Europe has been kinetic. Military units have been deployed to Greenland to assert sovereignty. This is a level of escalation that fits the profile of enemies, not allies. When a superpower holds its own military bloc hostage for a real estate deal, the alliance is effectively dead. The market is treating this as political theater. They are wrong. This is the new cost of doing business with an empire that is liquidating its soft power to acquire hard assets. The United States has signaled that no one is safe from the weaponization of the dollar and the tariff. Not even the friends, especially not the friends. But why Greenland? Why risk the entire Western security architecture for an island device? The answer does not lie in politics. It lies in the geology that I am about to expose. Greenland is not about ice. It is about the periodic table. The United States is in a desperate race to secure rare earth elements and strategic minerals to break the chokehold of the East. The island is a fortress of potential supply for the next century of technology and warfare. But there is a deeper signal here. By demanding the physical purchase of territory, the United States is admitting that the era of globalized trade is over. You do not buy the mine if you trust the market to sell you the ore. You only buy the mine and the land it sits on if you believe the market is going to close. This is a retreat into a fortress economy. It is a preparation for a world where international law and trade agreements are zero. It is a return to conquest economics, and the Europeans know this. That is why they are mobilizing. They are not protecting Danish pride. They are protecting their access to the strategic resources of the Arctic. We are watching the partition of the North Pole begin, and the first shots were just fired from the White House briefing room. You might think this geopolitical chess game is distant from your bank account, but the bond market and the precious metals market are already screaming the verdict. Look at the price of gold. It has touched $5,000 an ounce. Do not make the mistake of thinking this is just inflation. This is a vote of no confidence. When the United States threatens to bankrupt Canada and Europe, central banks around the world take note. They realize that holding US dollars or US Treasury bonds is no longer a risk-free proposition. It carries political risk. If Washington can turn on Ottawa and Berlin, it can turn on anyone. The spike in gold is the sound of institutional capital fleeing the fiat system. They are moving from return on capital to return of capital. They want their money back. And they want it in a form that cannot be tariffed, sanctioned, or canceled by a presidential decree. The rise of gold to $5,000 is the inverse reflection of the collapse of the Atlantic Alliance. The dollar is losing its geopolitical premium. The convergence of these events creates a matrix of risk that no algorithm has modeled. We have a supply chain shock coming from the Canadian border. We have a diplomatic crisis in the North Atlantic. And we have a resource war in the Arctic, all happening simultaneously. The timeline for this is short. The threat is immediate. If the 100% tariff is implemented, we will see the zombie companies in the automotive and manufacturing sectors begin to default within 30 days. The credit markets will freeze because no bank knows which supply chain is still viable. We are looking at a credit event in the corporate bond market that will make 2008 look like a training exercise. The integration of the North American economy means you cannot surgically remove Canada. You have to amputate the limb, and the patient is the U.S. economy. This is what the market is ignoring. They think this is a bargaining chip. But in a game of chicken between nuclear-armed economies, the collision happens before the swerve. This brings us to the final reality check. The systems you rely on for stability are breaking down. The alliances are dissolving. The trade routes are being mined with tariffs. The illusion of the safe zone is gone. North America was supposed to be the fortress. Now it is the battlefield. If you are holding assets that depend on the smooth operation of the USMCA or the stability of Nato, you are holding a burning match. The smart money is moving into physical assets that have no counterparty risk. Gold, silver, land, energy, things that do not require a treaty to have value. The Archivist Protocol is clear on this. When the structure fractures, gravity takes over. We are in free fall. The only question is how hard the landing will be when the tariff wall goes up. Do not be the observer who watches the news and hopes for a resolution. Hope is not a strategy. Verification is a strategy. I want you to perform an audit of your own position right now. Look at your portfolio. Look at your supplies. How much of your net worth is dependent on the continuity of cross-border trade? How much of it is in physical assets that exist outside the banking system? If the answer is zero, you are a volunteer victim. Do not hide from the number. Write down the percentage of your liquid net worth that is currently held in physical gold or silver. Write it in the comments. If it is zero, write zero. Acknowledge your vulnerability. The alliance is breaking. The tariffs are coming. The gold price is telling you the truth. Are you listening?